Guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aaron Bailey, aka Iris Illusion 2020. Before we do get started with today's makeup look, this tutorial is going to be discussing my nearly 9-year journey from starting off with makeup and stuff that I did back, in 2014 with like Dollar Tree stuff, things of that nature, and discussing my journey throughout the long term, along with discussing about some new products to play with, new techniques that I've learned and we're gonna try. So today's gonna be a fun experimental makeup day where we just have fun and discuss things. Just let me know if the background noise is too much. I have a couple of RuPaul Drag Race makeup tutorials going on in the background, just so that way I can have something going on along with my fan, just so that way I can keep myself cool. For today, we are going to be playing with the Profusion Metachrome palette, playing with these really fun colors that kind of remind me of early 2000s, where everyone was all about the glitz and the glam. But yeah, I just kind of want to have fun talking about some of my techniques that I've done to achieve my full complexions. If you wanted to learn or try to take some of these tips and tricks and find ways to work it into your makeup routine, that would be great. Makeup to me is all about a chemistry. There are ways you can do it. There are ways. Thank you, Serena. It's good to see you again, sweetheart. But makeup is all about a chemistry. There are things that will either work with your face or things that might not work with your face. That's where you have to learn and find what works and what doesn't, what goes with your skin type, what kind of goes against it. There are so many products that you could use to help with that. For instance, if you are someone who's on the oily nature, usually mattifying primers or primers that help reduce your pores would help with that. If you're somebody who's extremely dry, you want to use primers that have a hydrating effect on your skin to help with that. Foundations can also be the same way. I mean, you have matte finishes, satin finishes, natural finishes. Then you have the different types of coverages, from tinted skin moisturizers to light to medium, medium to full, very full coverages. But we'll get into that along the way. For now, we are going to get started. So for my skin type, I have a mixture of dry and oily, but I'm more concerned about getting rid of the oiliness around my nose, because I've noticed that along the lines my makeup starts kind of chipping off here. And the worst thing is your nose really doesn't hold on to makeup very well. So for our first new product, which unfortunately it's going to be reversed because of the camera, but this is the Sheer Envy Matte Primer Serum from Hard Candy Cosmetics. They just came out with this, and they used to have them in smaller tubes, almost like this, but now they got them in a longer tube, which they're about like maybe $8. But that's not bad for something that you're going to use little of. But I'm going to be mixing it with my poreless primer from Revolution Cosmetics. So we're just going to have ourselves a little chemistry here. And I just use about 1 pump of each. Mix it in. And then we have a new primer we're going to try a little later down the road, because I do my makeup in sections, which is going to be the top half first, so that way when I do my shadows, nothing falls down here and mixes in. And then after that, we're going to go back and re-prime the lower part of my face. So for now, and just to kind of help around after I just got done shaving, I'm going to use this Milani Chill Out Soothing Primer. This will just kind of give a little cooling sensation to my face to kind of help cool it down and calm it down. Because after you shave, even with the aftershave, it's still kind of, it's a little sensitive. Feels so good. Alright, so for our foundations today, As usual, I'm going to go in first with my Revolution Super Serum Foundation in the shade F2. What I love about these foundations is how they just kind of give a good coverage, even though they say it's like a lightweight coverage foundation or a light coverage foundation. But honestly, I mean, this will just cover the skin, giving it a good base to start with. And when it comes to applications, brushes or sponges, it's all a personal preference. I love using both. Usually a brush to initially apply it or a sponge, and then using either or to kind of make sure everything's patted down, everything's kind of all one layer before setting it, because once you set it, that's how it's going to be, and you really don't want it to be globbed on there, or else it could risk falling apart later down the road. So for my foundations today, I'm going to be using my Essence Keep Me Covered. It's a medium full coverage foundation in the shade, I think that says 50, but it's Ivory. Um, it's a good medium to full coverage foundation. I just use one pump of that. And then a little bit of my LA Girl Pro Coverage full coverage foundation in the shade Porcelain. And because it's a long wear illuminating foundation, it's a little more slick, which I really like. Something that kind of has a little more of a higher viscosity to where it just kind of lathers on up and out. And I used my brush to take off the bulk of the product for now. So we'll use the sponge to put down an initial base, and then use the brush again to hit it up. And I always love using a flat brush or a complexion brush like this to do foundation with. Those pointed foundation brushes I think are better for doing more detail work, but not for initially putting on product. And you'll see that I'll be using brushes for different purposes that they're not really meant for all the time. Highlighter, concealer. So I'm going to be using a brush that's initially for contouring by BB Cosmetics, but I like using this for my highlights because of the range of it. And today I'm going to be trying out the Superstay Activewear Concealer from Maybelline in the shade 1. This is their lightest shade that they got. It's almost like ghastly white, but the Superstay line I think works wonderfully. It's good full coverage without being too much. Just buffing it out. And now we're going to go into contouring, which I love using my e.l.f. putty bronzers that I have here in the shades Bronze Belle, Tan Lines, and Bronzette. Now, when it comes to contouring, I love the Bronze Belle, even though it's like super... Okay. I love using Bronze Belle, even though it's almost dark, but it actually is such a lightweight product that it's not going to mess up or anything. It doesn't go on so heavy as easy. So I'm going to be using this LA Girl LA Colors blush brush, which is almost like a dense packing brush. And then just circle it on. See, it goes on dark at first, but as you buff it out, it becomes so much more natural-esque. And plus, once you powder things down, it'll actually soften it to where it's not as harsh. And then just to add a little bit more depth, I'm going to be taking that bronzette, which is almost a borderline gray, but that's what we want to make sure that it doesn't look so hot or warm. Usually when you're trying to do contouring, you want to use colors that are more in the cool tones to create a more shadow-like effect. Because in that way, it looks a little bit more like natural, or it actually looks like a shadow rather than it being just constant warmth. See how it kind of cooled that down a little bit? And just to make sure things are buffed out even more, I'm going to use what I normally used for my putty bronzers, but I wanted to give these blush brushes a try since they're more of the denser side, and then just use a fluffier brush to make sure things are smooth and blended. Now on to the most daunting task is going to be the brows. Normally for my daytime I use my brow crayons, but for when I'm doing heavy makeup like this, I'd rather use a brow pomade because it buffs out better, but the techniques are going to still be the same. So using this Milani Brow Gel in the shade Dark Brown, number 5, we're going to take our brush, I'm going to get right up in here, right about there, and just pull a straight line. That's going to be the bottom brow, bottom part. And then about halfway through it, handshaking, pull up, parallel, and then just pull down. And then connect and fill. Just like so. And then we're going to use my concealer brush and pull that product so that way it kind of helps to give it more of that ombre effect I love doing, because I always enjoy an ombre brow, and that way it kind of pulls that line back from the center so they're not so close. And then do the same with the other side. Brows, to me, the reason why I've shaved mine off is because A, I got tired of maintaining them, and they were such a pain. So I took the brave step of just shaving them, and because of that, it helps me being able to freely draw brows the way I want to. If, say, there was a day that I wanted to do like a 1920s look, then they're going to be super thin. Or if I want to do something that's a little bolder, then I'd be able to draw them a little thicker like Brooke Shields. I don't know what's going on, why I keep saying something went wrong. If this doesn't end well, oh well. But now that we have the initial base down, we are going to powder the top of the forehead, or top of the head. So I'm just going to use my concoction of Coty Airspun powders with a super fat powder puff. And just set this down. And I always say that regardless of how little makeup you're doing, I would still say set things down, because when you leave product wet, you're going to run the risk of it smearing or slipping throughout the day. To brush all this off, I'm going to use a bit of the Stay Matte powder from Rimmel in the shade Natural, which is the number 3, with a big old fluff brush. They say that this powder is supposed to be like a dupe version of the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Filter. No, wait, that's the e.l.f. But it's supposed to be like a dupe version of it. I just use it to brush off any excess powder and to help set this makeup further by just patting it and then swirl to make sure things are blended in and out. And now we're going to finish up these brows by using the Revolution Brow Powder in dark and a botched angle brush that I created myself. It's basically an e.l.f. eyeliner brush that I cut at an angle, but you could probably find an actual eyeliner brush elsewhere. And just taking those two brown shades together, tapping off any extra, and then we're just going to fill in these brows. Pull, pull. And they don't have to be so clean right now because we will be going in with a concealer and cleaning up underneath them. So they don't have to be as perfect right now. And then we're going to take an angled eyeshadow brush of sorts, and we're just going to pull the product out so that way it fades. And then before going in with our brow powders, I'm going to take a denser powder brush and my lightest powder, which is going to be from Maybelline. It's the Superstay powder in the shade 102 Ivory. Actually, give me a second, I can't seem to find it. Of course, when I need it. It's 112. Ha! So it's the 102 Ivory. Oh, Fair Porcelain. And then we're just going to take it to highlight the forehead and to really feather out the front ends of these brows to where they're not so bold. Basically like that. And now we're going to take my NYX brow pens in the shades Ash Brown and Brunette. These are the Lift and Snatch Brows pens. You know, this entire time I have not talked about my journey yet. So, when I first started off almost 9 years ago, this was around 2014, my grandmother showed me a few episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race during season 6 with Adore Delano, Bianca Del Rio, and Courtney Act, and the rest of them. And it was kind of mesmerizing to see these guys, whether if they be men or very young adult boys, transform themselves into these beautiful women. And I guess that kind of sparked an interest with me because I was kind of falling out of my Photoshop work when I went from drawing in high school to Photoshop with digital artwork. And then when she showed me this, I was really intrigued. And I guess that kind of sparked the interest of, one, at a very early age, I kind of wanted to learn how to do drag myself. But after a while, I started realizing how you have to really be dedicated to that craft, and I just don't have the time or the patience. And so I thought I would be better off just sticking with the makeup aspect. And I'm really glad that I did, because honestly, I never would have thought that this would have been the route that I would take after graduating high school, to be honest. But here we are, almost 9 years later. So I first started off playing with products from like Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, just whatever was inexpensive to play with. I think I spent about like $27 shopping with my husband at Dollar Tree and just getting like a starter of makeup. Oh my gosh, the memories I looked at back at work, was seeing my old makeup collection where I had these eyeshadow palettes from a brand called Amore, Emoire or A, that were like these two fan palettes that had one that was all matte shadows and then one that was all shimmer. And those were the shadows I first started out with, along with these other pans that had all these bright, vibrant colors, but they were all mostly like shimmer tones. Aw, thank you, Sabrina. Oh, that's right. I also did Photoshop work for some of my classmates back then, doing like these collages back when I was just first starting with that stuff. Okay, so back to before we get back to the story, my first new product that I'm gonna try doing is this Revolution Cut Crease Canvas. It's a full coverage eyeshadow base in the shade Illuminate. So I'm gonna give this a try to see how it fares compared to the white concealers I've been using. Oh, when I said full coverage, I ain't kidding. Damn. And I'm just gonna use this fluffy, who knows what's it brush from Color Spell to buff this out. Um, but when I first started out with makeup, and I've shown pictures on all my social medias of how I tried using a liquid liner for the first time, and I ended up looking so pissed because of how it just like smeared down here. But then again, this was such a cheap uh, eye liquid liner that it almost felt like I was stabbing my eye with a ballpoint pen. So with the Metachrome palette here, we're gonna play with this like deep navy blue tone. We're gonna use this to create our cut crease. I remember one of the first shadow palettes that I got was from LA Colors, and it was a purple, pink, and blue shimmer palette. And I thought, oh, I'll just mix all these together and it'll look beautiful. I looked like I gave myself a black eye, and I had people at work when I was working at Marco's wondering if I got hit by something. But I was determined to learn how to play with makeup, and over the years I kept changing up my styles, my techniques. Now we're going to play with like this fun purple tone. Oh, this one right here, it's almost like a purpley magenta tone. We're going to use this to buff out the top of the crease. Little circular motions. But there would be times when I look back at my pictures and I kind of question what was I thinking then. Especially using the liquid liner jet black to form the crease, and made it look so heavy. And then using like the weirdest colors, thinking I was doing something. But you live and you learn as you play with your craft. And honestly, it's been such a fun journey playing with different products, learning along the ways of what works and what doesn't work for your face. Where'd it go? And now we're going to take this Revolution Cream Eyeshadow in the shade 760. Yeah, it doesn't really say the name, but it's like just a pure silver. We're going to use this to kind of create or cut our crease with, because we want this look to really scream like early 2000s. But it was always fun looking back at my old makeup pics and seeing what I thought was such a fun look to do, but then realizing now, God, what kind of a mistake did I make doing those looks? Oh, that is so beautiful. And then even working at like Walgreens as a beauty consultant, um, looking back at some of my looks, trying to act professional with it, eventually I kind of got tired of trying to fit into a standard of what beauty should have been and just started doing my own and learned not to really give a damn of what people thought. And I've been happier ever since, just playing with vibrant colors, being what I love, which is just loud and colorful. And then over the years, I kept wanting to try the newest things, playing with the next best thing that came out, especially like with Profusion, Wet and Wild, or Rimmel. As much as people love playing with like higher end brands like Lancome or La Roche Posay. Oh wait, that's skincare. Lancome or Estee Lauder. But I would much rather spend my money on a more inexpensive stuff to play with rather than playing with stuff that's going to cost me an arm and a leg. I mean, look at the material. It would be my dream to one day have a makeup brand reach out to me asking if they would love me to have do their model their brands or their products for them. Because so far, I don't think I met a product that I haven't liked yet, really. And if I did, then I would always find a way to make it work. Because as a makeup artist, that's really what you got to do, is just find ways to either make it work or just give your honest opinion and say it just kind of sucks. And you can't be afraid of hurting the brand's feelings, because then how is the brand going to learn what works and what doesn't work? But even after like doing my major cleansing of my makeup that I did with my husband, it brought back so many memories of the products that I bought that either went to waste or just kind of got old over the course of time. And it was crazy feeling those memories flooding in of buying all these shadows and lipsticks, or getting makeup from coworkers that they said that you just never really used. So it's kind of why I wanted to do this video of talking about like this journey of getting to where I am now. I mean, compared to what I did beforehand, whew, the journey speaks for itself, honestly. So that's going to be the top part of the eyes for now. Now we're going to clean up the bottoms and then try out our next new product. Um, but gosh, like, just kind of thinking like here I am, that my start of my makeup journey was all because of RuPaul's Drag Race, and then it becoming like my thing. So we're just going to use a little bit of this Power Fix primer from Revolution to reprime the bottom part of the face. But around my nose, I'm going to try this L'Oreal Magic Perfecting Primer with the primer brush that I have up here. So for my concealer underneath, I'm also going to be mixing in with my Hard Candy Glamouflage Primer. The one thing I would say that I regret is I wish I would have done this during high school. Like, if I got this little bug of being a makeup person while I was in high school to really express who I was. I fell in love with doing makeup because to me this is almost as fun as any kind of artistry. And that's where I draw my inspiration, is just looking around like, what could I do to turn this into a fun makeup look? Here it is. I'm losing my train of thoughts here. Guess I'm getting lost in them, but it was just always fun playing with makeup as a way of showing off my artistic creativity. Because you could do so many different styles, looks, different designs, things that just people wouldn't normally think of or would ever really do. And for me, especially when it comes to being close to Pride looks, that to me is always fun because you can do so many different styles and designs for things like all red look or an all blue look, all green. Now we're going to do my nose contour, which I have two brushes that I use, a flat angle brush and a fluff brush to buff it out. With this flat brush, we are going to use tan lines. And then using Bronzette on that fluffier brush, we're going to buff out these sides to make it look a little less cuckoo. And now to contour the cheeks. I don't know, every time I try to do these videos and try to talk, I end up being so concentrated with the look. But I wanted to just really sit here and have fun with this new stuff, so taking Bronzette. And then using a buffing brush, or the fluffy brush, and just fluffity, 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 fluff, fluff, fluff. And now we're going to use a bit of my illuminating putty bronzer. Oops. this style brush. And there we are so far. Now we're just going to powder the bottom part of the face. I'm using a powder to buff all this out. I don't know, I'm just kind of lost in thought. I'm just thought I would have had more to talk about, but it wasn't as much as I was thinking. Ooh. So already I'm kind of starting to notice, maybe with that primer, it's kind of looking really patchy under the eyes. So I'm wondering maybe it may not have been the primer, it might have been the concealer. Oh joy. Well, let's try powdering this around and seeing where that gets us then. Gotta get up and see because I can't see. Thanks, Sabrina. Yeah. And then using a powder puff, we're going to take this CoverGirl Outlast. Nope, not that one. The Clean Press Powder Foundation. And we're going to just do the sides of the nose. That way everything doesn't look so crazy. And then taking these super matte foundations from Revolution in vanilla and translucent, we're just going to do this to do the under eyes. And using that dense brush to kind of and now we're gonna contour with powders, and I have about 3 to 4 that I mess with. Starting off with the Super Bronzer for Revolution in the shade Desert. This is very reminiscent to the, or at least the color is reminiscent to the beach vibes from Hard Candy, but that's a illuminating bronzer. I need a matte, so I got one that was in the same color tone. To where it's not too warm. And we're just going to contour the forehead and the cheek. Next up, we're going to take a fluffier brush, and we are going to be using this CoverGirl Clean Powder in Soft Honey, which is a little darker, but we're using a fluffier brush so it's not as heavy, but we're going to use it to kind of and then we're also going to use start the initial jaw contour. And then taking this angled fluff brush, we are going to be using a little of this e.l.f. camo powder. This is a full coverage powder. It's a little warmer. I'm using just a slight amount. And then using a butter bronzer from Physicians Formula in the shade Light Bronze, taking a fluffy brush, and I'm just going to use this to kind of dust over and blend out any of that powder. So far, so good. Using that same powder puff with the foundations before, I'm going to take my Superstay foundation in 112, which is their Natural Ivory, and we're going to use this to cut the undersides of the cheek to help give it a more prestige line. Oh yeah. And then just taking a little bit of that bronzer powder. And then taking a fluffy blush brush, we're going to take a little blush from, just sat it down, from Physicians Formula in Vintage Rouge. It's just more of like a real skin tone. Since I want the eyes to be more the focus, I don't want to go so heavy on the blush to draw the attention away. And without putting any extra product on that brush, I'm going to take that same fluff brush and we're just going to buff all this out. Yeah, I think that Superstay concealer is not mixing well, because I'm kind of noticing right there, it's kind of patchy. So maybe the Superstay is not my best concealer. And that's probably one lesson I should have started with. Everybody's body chemistry is different, which means some products could work for some people, some may not. But as we're learning, I don't think that Superstay concealer works well for me. Either that or it could be the primer. It's one of the two. But we'll see. So now we're going to get into highlighting, which is my favorite segment. And what I'm actually going to do is take that highlighter from the center of this palette. Oh, yeah. Oh, pardon my language, but bitch, are you kidding me? Oh, if you're ever doing like a 2000s look, it's not showing up as good on camera, but like in the mirror, when you hit it just right, like look at that. And to add a little bit more, I'm going to take this Hard Candy make the first mauve, these like blush tones. Oh. So now we're going to start on the lower half of the eyes. For my waterline, I love using these Hard Candy Eye Def eyeshadow markers, but they're really just eyeshadow crayons in the shade Whiteout. And it's just a simple eyeshadow crayon. Oh yeah. And then now we're going to start shaping out the under eye using that same blue. We're going to pull from the corner and just kind of chisel it back out. About halfway. Now, instead of that same purple, I'm going to take this more muted purple in the palette, which is right next to it. And we're going to buff out that blue. It's almost giving like a fine Lady Gaga kind of style makeup, which I'm digging. And I'm just going to grab that silver from Revlon, wherever it keeps going, to kind of give these eyes a little bit more. Just grabbing that purple and pulling up underneath that. Like I said, this look isn't meant to be very basic. I'm wanting it to be kind of out there, especially if we're playing with something like Metachrome. I want it to be super over the top. And I'm also going to take a little bit more of that center highlight color again and just reinforce what's on the cheek. Oh, this is so beautiful. This actually kind of reminds me of one of my first makeup tutorials I did, where I did like the whole glamour mermaid thing. But this one's actually coming out a lot better and not as harsh. Just going over some detailing work. Okay, now we're going to do eyeliner, which I'm going to be trying out this Physicians Formula Matte Monoi Butter Liner. We found this actually at Marshall's for only $3.99. It honestly still retails at my store for 12 bucks, so it's kind of surprised. And I was like, oh, I've been wanting to try this, but I wasn't going to drop 12 bucks, but here we go. Well, it's definitely black. It works pretty nicely. I definitely love the brush. It's flimsy, which is great because it goes with the flow and not like sticking against it. So far, so good. For the lower lash line, I'm actually going to use my graphics liner from LA Colors. And this one, it's just a little bit better and more controllable to draw with. And then while it's still kind of wet, I'll get a little bit of that blue again. That way it kind of acts as a buffing color. Next up is lips. This is going to be pretty interesting to try. I'm going to be playing with the Satin Stay, or the Satin Ink Color Stay from Revlon in the shade 36 Royal Amethyst, which is like this deep purple burgundy color. But then in the center, I'm going to play with this Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink in 415 Birthday Babe. So we're going to have ourselves a fun lip combo here. But before applying any lip product, I'm going to use just a lip balm. And these only are like only less than $2 at my store. So it just kind of helps to rehydrate the lips before applying anything, because once you powder and foundation your lips, they're dry as a bone, which makes lipsticks more difficult to put on, and you're probably not getting the true color out of it. So starting off with that rich burgundy tone. Definitely, ooh, definitely a choice. I'm going to clean up the edge using just this old concealer brush. And then I'm just going to use my finger to now to add that blue in the center. And then blending it out. Oh, happy birthday! Well, it's a good thing I picked this color for called Birthday Babe. 70 years old, wow. Let's see. I think for this we're gonna top it off with a gloss to kind of tie the colors together. I'm gonna use this Extreme Shine Volume Lip Gloss from Essence Cosmetics. And it's just, it's called number 101 Milky Way. I can't get behind the smell of this, but the color, there we go. That kind of helps to merge the colors together so they're not so murky. I guess the last step is going to be some mascara and lashes, and then we're going to be done. Because after this, I'm going to go to my parents' place to hang out with family for a bit. But for lashes today, since this was going to be a fun, extreme kind of party look, I'm going to play with my favorite, like, drag style lashes. Before we do, I'm going to coat my lashes with this Lash Princess False Lash Effect Mascara from Essence. Just that way they're kind of coated. And since we're really not going to try to keep this look down, I'm just going to use one of my lesser glues, which is the Duo Quick Dry Glue. So we're just going to take the lash with a pair of tweezers. These are just a typical slanted tweezer. Oh, this one's actually almost dried up. So we'll take the secondary one. And we're just going to let that dry for a second. You know, this gloss is beautiful, but there's like a funny aftertaste with it. Kind of reminds me of cough syrup. Choices. Oh, yes, this is the choice. And then on to lash number 2. And then oh yes. And then I'm just gonna use my Power Lash Volume Mascara from Revolution. What I love about this particular one, because of the brush being really fluffy, it doesn't grasp the lashes. So I can use this to kind of push the false ones together. And then just using the butt end. And then just grab those tweezers again, just to make sure these are a little more secure. Alright. And I think with that, we are at the end of this makeup tutorial. I know it wasn't as vocal as I should have been. I'm still trying to learn with that, but I actually think this turned out really cool. This is very reminiscent of my Mermaid Galaxy chic look I did years ago with one of my very first makeup tutorials. And it's not as harsh, it's not as heavy. I mean, besides the eyes and the lips, but hey. And then using the Metachrome Profusion palette to create this look, I actually think I should have used this a while back when it first came out, but, you know. But normally I would set this with setting spray, but like I said, after this I'm probably going to head out to my parents' place, have some fun with my grandmother since she's visiting. And, yeah, I think we're done with today's video. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Hope maybe you learned a thing or two from it. And we'll definitely be getting ready for our major Pride looks, which start this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for the next 3 weeks. And then the last Friday being our rainbow look for the finale. And until then, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for staying true to you. And love you guys until the end. Bye.